Hi, welcome back. My name is Peter. This is JC4PM, and we're going to continue with part 2 of the interview on the Rosebud podcast with Mr. Blount and Jeremy Corbyn. So, as we touched on a few subjects so far, May Day, what it's all about. Celebrate it, don't celebrate it. You have to watch the last video if you want to see what that's about. And also about how we got into protesting and marching and campaigning. So yeah, and here's the second part of this hour. Yeah, I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
I remember being with Tony Blair when he addressed the WI. Do you remember this? And I told him, "Oh, they'll love you."
That Women's
They'll
Institute?
Love
I love you, Tony, yeah.
And I'd even given him a couple of jokes.
Why did you tell him that?
Well, because I thought they would. Somehow I thought they would. They'd see him as their potential son-in-law. They'd like him. This is reasonably early days.
Yeah, and he's a smartly dressed, nice young man, not like that horrible Corbyn.
Yeah, exactly. But somehow it didn't work.
Nasty
He didn't
man.
realise it because it was at Wembley.
Yeah.
There was a big gap. The lights were on him. He couldn't see them.
Yeah.
And he heard this noise, turned out to be hostile.
Yeah,
So you can't quite tell.
yeah.
But, oh, Jeremy Corbyn. So, born 26th of May 1949, my first question is always the same. What, Jeremy, is your very first memory?
My first memory was I grew up in Wiltshire, in a small village near Chippenham called Kington St Michael. And I was the youngest of
Said it was going to be a long one, didn't he?
boys. I remember sort of a great sense of freedom as a very small child because it was a very small village. There was no traffic. There was nobody about. Basic, even as a 5-year-old, a bit later on, walk around on your own sort of thing. But at that age, I just remember
That's crazy.
being fascinated
5
by
years old.
insects and animals in the garden. So I'd sort of stand for ages looking at a concrete path to wait for an insect to go across it like this. And so my first memory was of bright sunny days on a garden path and looking at an old wall made of limestone, and an animal appeared in this.
Is he reading a book?
Fascinating. And then it went away. So I rush in the house and say, there's an animal in the wall. And so my brother said, oh God, older brothers, oh God, what? I said, well, it was like a snake. So a long thing like this. They said, what was it? And they said, so they then said, what did it look like? And I said, well, it looked like, they said, did it have any markings on it? And I said, yeah. I said, what were they? And I said, well, so they drew one, which was a V mark.
It's in the UK,
and
isn't it?
it was an adder.
An adder.
That's good. It's a good first memory.
Cool.
Great first memory. And it never
How
stung
do you
me.
remember that?
Never bit me.
Well, there you are. Blessed from the beginning. So you run into the house. Who's in the house? Who are your parents?
Mum and Dad. Dad was an electrical engineer, worked at that time for Westinghouse in Chippenham, and later left there to go and work for English Electric in Stafford, which is why we moved to the Midlands. Mum had done various jobs, and eventually, after I got a bit older, went back into teaching and was a teacher, secondary school teacher.
How did they meet?
They met in the 1930s. They were both political in different areas, and they met at a meeting in Conway Hall in Red Lion Square. They were both there supporting the Spanish Republic against the fascist invasion. And I often, when I go to meetings at Conway Hall, I say, I'm looking at you lot in the middle now, and I'm looking over there. And they sort of, why I say that? I said, my mum sat there and my dad sat there, and their eyes met.
Literally, they saw each other, and that was it.
Well, they got together, and then that was it.
And what
So
was it?
the romance of the Spanish solidarity, Spanish Civil War. So that was a huge motivating force for both of them in their lives, which was opposition to the fascists in Spain. Well, fascists everywhere, obviously.
What were they like together? Were they always talking political things?
No, they were both fascinated by history and by literature. and by reading, and they were also keen on archaeological digs in Wiltshire and then later on in the Midlands.
So you had good role models then?
I remember sort of being dragged on sort of freezing wet Sunday afternoons to something that was apparently the site of a Roman villa somewhere, and you're sort of paddling around all this mud and these archaeologists getting incredibly excited about something. But as a sort of 6-year-old, sort of a bit weird, all a bit weird. But they did love history, and when they, my dad never retired. He worked till he died, because that was him. That was what he was like. They wrote a history of their village where they ended up living, and this village is right on the edge of the Town Hill, where there's the White Horse. So when you're travelling on the train, London, when you pass Pewsey, you look to your right if you're heading westwards, and you'll see the White Horse on the hill. That's where their ashes are.
And were they happy together, do you think?
Oh, they probably had lots of arguments, but they were together.
But
yeah.
they muddled along quite well.
Yeah, I mean, people do. Yeah. I don't remember them ever sort of didactically talking political opinions or views to any of us at all. As far as they were concerned, what they wanted was us always to be practical, active, and creative. So there was a lot of encouragement about making things, doing things, hobbies and all that sort of thing.
So what happened of an evening? You weren't sitting watching television as a family. What were you doing?
My mother hated ITV with a passion. We were not allowed to have ITV on the television. She wouldn't have it.
We didn't get ITV.
It didn't come till a bit later,
No,
but
but
she
it
wouldn't
was-
have it.
Even when it was available.
Even when it
You
came,
press
she
the
wouldn't have
third
it.
button. She wouldn't have it.
No, we're not having that thing on. And she wouldn't want the television on late in the evening. Her version of late in the evening.
So that was the first time paid TV came along, where private people owned the TV station. So before that it was just BBC, where taxpayer owned the BBC. It's a bit bent now, but back then it would have been a bit decent.
It was 8 o'clock. So we could watch television. We didn't get a television until, like everybody else, I guess, latter part of the 50s. So we were allowed to watch things like Quatermass, which was a great programme. I think that was on at 8 o'clock, so maybe we got a special pass that day.
No idea.
Did you read books? Can you remember some
Yes,
of the
I
other
did.
books
Yeah.
you read? What were they?
I read a lot, particularly history books and novels and so on. And I was academically very unsuccessful in school, probably because I was too interested in a very small number of subjects. And I used to read, particularly when I was in secondary school, a lot of Russian and American novels, because I had a very good teacher, Mr. Birch, who
A Russian asset, isn't he?
he and I he was in CND and stuff.
That's one
like
of the
that,
lies.
you know. He was the man with the green corduroy trousers and the CND badge.
There's always one, isn't there?
There was one. Yeah, you got a lovely man.
Ours was a maths teacher called Mr. Gillingham.
Yeah,
Had the corduroy and everything and the badges.
The lot.
And he organised a bus from the school for everyone to go to Aldermaston and all of that.
that's right. Yeah, there was always one good. So he was a lovely man, and he encouraged me to read a lot. So I ended up reading a whole lot of Russian novels like Sholokov and so on, and then American novels as well, Hemingway particularly, and Upton Sinclair and so on, because I do think you can get novelists, a bit like artists and musicians, can take the wide view, and you can actually understand quite a lot about a society by a good novelist's observations of the world and society. And so I think they're sometimes more powerful than his history itself.
Were you a serious child? This is a slightly serious picture, or were you quite larky when you were smaller? Did you play?
Oh, I
who were
played
your
it-
friends outside of home?
Oh,
Who was your best friend outside of the
well,
family?
we lived in a very small area outside a small town, so there weren't too many people to be friendly with. I had my mate Kelvin Brown, who lived up the road, and we used to go out mucking around in the woods and cycling and stuff together. and making trolleys and stuff to go down the hill on, that kind of thing. And when I was a bit later, a group of us, this is a sign of the times, I would have been about 14, went off on a 3, 4, 5 day, maybe 5 day cycle tour around North Wales, just on
your own.
Yeah, and nobody thought there was anything odd about it. These days, any parent would be absolutely paranoid. God, they wouldn't, they'd be watching the kids to the end of the road. And so it was, looking back on it, a time of unbelievable sense of security and freedom, which I find sad that these days children don't get that chance, don't get that sense of freedom of opportunity. I wish they did.
Was it?
I think that as well. I'm 44, so mid to late 80s, I'd be walking over a mountain to go to a swimming pool. I'd be walking up the mountain, up the stream, all the way from the river, all the way to the top where it becomes a stream and non-existent. With a blind boy in my hands, walking him up there as well. Oh my God, that's probably one of my earlier memories as well. What was I, like 7, 8, 9?
I mean, I suppose it was, because your father's an engineer and your mother's a teacher. It's a middle-class household, really.
Yeah.
You went away to an independent... Did you go away to prep school?
No, I didn't. I went to a Catholic primary school in Chippenham, Wiltshire. And
were your parents Catholic?
Well, that's the thing.
Get you in.
You see, my mum was brought up very heavily within the Church of England. Indeed, her brother was a vicar.
Oh.
But she herself was an atheist, but had an unbelievable knowledge of the Bible. She was a Bible-reading atheist, and she said it's the greatest work of literature, King James Bible. So she said it's the greatest work of literature, the most wonderful stories, and so on. Okay. My dad was an active person within the Church of England, but his knowledge of the Bible was not as good as hers. So she would frequently correct him, which was quite funny, actually. How I ended up in a Catholic primary school, I have no idea. It must have been a sort of a witty compromise.
And where did you go next?
And then we moved to Shropshire, and I went to another school there for 3 years, a private primary school, which the best thing there was a teacher who loved poetry, and she gave me a love of poetry.
What was her name?
Mrs. Brock.
Yeah.
Very nice lady. And then I went to secondary school, where I eventually, on the second attempt, passed 11 plus. Horrible exam, terrible idea. I went to grammar school in Shropshire, which was well into league tables and achievement and so on. So there were 2 streams, A and B. I was in the B stream. And then you were graded numbers 1 to whatever the last number in the class was. When I started, it was 31. And then a boy left, so we moved up to 30. And for most of my time, I was in the lower 20s or 30 on the grading of the class.
Now, why is this? And why, am I right that you only got 2 E's for A-level? Is this possible?
Yes.
Sorry to bring it up, because this is supposed to be a happy conversation. We're celebrating May Day. But
He was out partying.
Why were you
Jezza loves to
given by
party.
achieving parents?
Jezza on the Venga bus.
Thoughtful household. You read. You were comfortable with your brothers. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
It was a contented family and an interested family.
They were all academically very good and very successful. All of them. 2 of them got first-class degrees from Imperial College. That's Andrew, the later Andrew died some years ago, and Piers, who's still around, obviously.
He's quite famous.
Piers is
notorious. I'm not quite sure why.
Oh,
I
no,
know his
don't
name.
call him notorious. He has an independent thought.
Good. Well,
He has a different point of view to me on
most things. Oh, no.
No, not most things. Global warming particularly. We debate it sometimes.
Oh, he's a denier. That's him. Is he also the person who regrets the fact I got my COVID jab yesterday? He doesn't believe in that sort of thing.
He probably does, but he is certainly of the view that climate change is a product of solar activity and inevitable movement of the sun in relation to the earth rather than man-made or human-made activity. And My view is, yes, there is a natural phenomena as part of it, but we've poured so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere in the past 250 years that has had an effect, and we've also had an effect on the biodiversity of our planet. So we debate these issues whenever we meet.
So you have this thoughtful family, this debating family.
Okay, and we are going to cut it there. I'll move on to the next video, but that was very, very, very interesting, that section. Lots of little things that we didn't know. So we went through Corbyn's childhood, his first memories, parents, how his parents met, home life, books. He had BBC, he didn't have ITV. School life, struggles, teenage years, and also his family dynamics, his family achievements, his differences with siblings, notably climate change with his brother. I forget his name. I remember his brother though. There's a good TikTok about him going into a cashless store and buying strawberries and putting his coinage on the table. Yeah, he's a bit far out. But yeah, I hope you join me on the next one. Thank you.